And I know it's gonna be a lot of people watching this, so wherever you are, clap your hand like this right now, right now, right now, right now, right now, right now. Now, I wanna hear you say yeah, 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 yeah. They know what to do. Y'all do it. Say yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. A little sing along. You know what I'm saying? It's all good. Say yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that, fella. All right.
I see you grooving, brother.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Lilo, I want you to sing the song, bro.
It's in his knees. Hold it, brother.
In the
Let it do harmony. Yeah. That's what we're supposed to do the first time.
Yeah. It's all good.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. When you don't know what to do, that's what you do. But Lilo sang that song. Come on.
Now everybody, see when you walk in. Yeah. With that attitude. Yeah. That face and real big like baby. Yeah. And them eyes got the boys going crazy. And me too. I ain't trying to be rude. And ain't nothing like country love. And that ain't nothing but the truth.
Darling.
And you got that. Tell me where you got it, cause I don't want it ever to leave. And I'm looking over my shoulder. A pretty fine to me, and I wanna know you. And what's your name? And if you wanna, maybe we can exchange contacts and get your contact down. I cannot lie, you caught my eye, and I really wanna know. What can I say to make you wanna get away? Desire, you got that fire. You got that fire. Fire, fire, fire. You got that fire. Fire, fire. You got that. Hey lady, it's something like a fantasy, and I really want to get the chance to know you. It would mean the world to me, cause I like every little thing you do. Hey. It's so crazy, it blows my mind. You're so tasteful and graceful too. Yeah. And when I'm here with you, I like everything you do. You can turn the world around, and my love will hold you down forever. Yeah, I cannot lie. You caught my eye, and I really wanna know. Whoa, what can I say to make you wanna get away? Desire, you got that fire. You got that fire, 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 fire. You got that fire, fire, fire. You got that. Long as it's with the back and the front, real cool, you know what you want. Yeah. Pretty round with the big old run, and I can tell by the way she look. She like that diamond in the back, sunroof top, digging in the scene with a gangster Lena. Ooh, yeah. And I can live alone that baby, cause you're yeah, in the rough. She said she kinda hood, I like it, and she know what's up for me later. Girl, I love your style and your flavor, and maybe I could be the one to come save you. I'm the hero, cause I ain't got no time to waste, girl. Come on. Oh, yeah. Feel the vibe right now.
vibe, feel the vibe, feel the vibe. That thing we were doing earlier. Y'all say, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was nice. Now for you at home, do this part. Yeah, yeah. They was supposed to do it. It's all good. Let's break for them again. Say, yeah, yeah. Break.
Yeah. My bad.
They was supposed to do it.
I'm sorry, that's my bad.
This y'all turn. Right here, one more time. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, right here. That's it. That's it right there. All right, one time in harmony and we gonna leave it alone. One time in harmony. Say yeah, yeah. That was real fun.
I thought it was going.
Nah, I like stuff like this, man. With raw, uncut stuff, you get us for real. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I like it. You know.
How y'all like my little gadget, man?
I like it, man.
It's pretty dope.
It's
You
dope.
Like it? Oh yeah. 1 minute. Oh, one more.
Well,
We're making good time.
we're moving.
And I don't mean to be rude. We're making good time. Bro.
Now this one is another old goodie. It's a classic song, you know. And I'm not gonna waste a lot of time. I just think I want to sing it for you. I want to sing it for you right now.
Good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Teresa Lockamy, and I am part of the TESCA project team. So glad you could join this second community workshop for Carrboro Connects, the comprehensive planning effort for the town of Carrboro. I hope you enjoyed that introduction, the music from the Hamiltons. They are going to be the start of some musical featuring we're going to be doing tonight to highlight the town of Carrboro's 2021 Freight Train Blues Concert Series, which is going to be virtual and free this year. It's going to begin May the 14th, so be on the lookout for more information about that. So why don't we start out with a couple of tips about using Zoom? If we can go to...
I am good evening. I am Sor Angela from El Centro Hispano. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Great, thank you. I'm going at home now at the car, but soon I leave it at home and continue, okay?
Okay, we're going to give some instructions in just a moment about how we're going to be offering interpretation services for this meeting. So you're going to be asked in just a moment at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see an interpretation button. We're going to ask you to choose a language in just a moment, either English or Spanish. But let me just review these Zoom tips first, if I might. We're going to ask everyone to mute your microphone for the first part of the meeting and use the chat feature to post questions or comments so that others can see that. We encourage you to have your video on whenever possible, and that way we can just engage with one another. I'm hopeful we won't have any technical issues, but if need be, please call Ben. The email address for Ben is there on your screen, BBEROLZHEIMER at townofcarrboro.org. His number is 919-918-7330. So you'll see at the bottom of that slide what the button, the icon will look like to pick either English or Spanish on your screen. So you're welcome to go ahead and do that now. Let's go to the next slide.
Miss Teresa?
Yes.
Hi, this is the interpreter. Should I make that same announcement in Spanish at this point?
That'd be great.
Thank you. Muy buenas noches a todos. participar, les damos una cordial bienvenida a este segundo evento comunitario del Town of Carrboro. Le damos la bienvenida con esta linda música que tenemos aquí, que más adelante van a hacer un concierto virtual al cual ustedes van a poder asistir de manera gratuita. Pero por ahora queremos empezar dándoles algunas instrucciones con relación al proceso de la interpretación que vamos a llevar a cabo durante esta reunión. El Town of Carrboro está haciendo un esfuerzo por asegurarse de que estas reuniones sean completamente bilingües. El trabajo de hacer esta reunión bilingüe es de todos. Lo que les vamos a pedir entonces es que se unan a través, en la parte inferior de la pantalla, hay un icono de un mundo, si se están conectando desde una computadora, en el cual ustedes hacen clic y pueden ahí elegir el idioma. Es también recomendable que pongan a silenciar audio original y después poner done o hecho. Si se están conectando desde un teléfono celular, por favor, hagan tap en la interpretación, elijan el idioma y de nuevo pongan done. Eso es todo, pero no sin antes decirles que si tienen algún problema para conectarse con la tecnología, comuníquense con Ben al 919-918-7330, 919-918-7330. Thank you, Ms. Teresa. You may take it from now.
Thank you, kind sir. Again, just to remind you, we are using interpretation services tonight. So if you're using a computer, please click interpretation in your meeting controls. If you're on a phone, tap more and then tap language interpretation. Tap language you'd like to hear, either English or Spanish. And let me formally introduce our interpreter, Murtado Bustillos. You heard his voice, and so I'll turn it back over to him to share these same interpretation instructions in Spanish.
I think we're good to go on the instructions, Teresa.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, before we proceed, let me just make sure you're aware we are indeed monitoring the weather as we progress through our meeting. And if for any reason there are issues that, are of concern, we will certainly bring those before you in a timely manner. So please just rest assured that we're paying close attention to what's going on. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Let me just give you a couple of details about what we're gonna do together this evening. Well, before we start, I guess we wanted to do just a quick check-in. In your chat feature, would you just quickly let us know how you're doing this evening? Just give us one word to indicate how you're feeling tonight. And I'm gonna start us off with grateful. I'm in Greensboro, and we had a little harsh weather this evening, but nothing terrible happened at my house. So I see goof, content, excited, safe, busy, well, curious, hopeful, happy, okay, ready, doing good, great with an exclamation point, optimistic, wonderful. Partially vaccinated, present. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Continue to drop those in the chat as I continue to just kind of do an overview of our agenda for this evening. Our primary objective is so that we can hear from Carrboro residents about some of the historic and more recent perspectives about the town. We want to learn some about the key elements of the comprehensive plan. We want to consider the power of planning. And then we're going to break out into some discussion groups for more conversation and idea sharing. So everybody has an opportunity to do that. We're going to end our meeting. Our schedule is to end at 9. And we're going to end on a high note. So we invite you to stay for the entire meeting. We're going to have a special call to action at the end, toward the end of our meeting. But I also want to invite you to stay even beyond 9 o'clock, just for a few minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes if your schedule permits. We're going to feature some more of the artists who are going to be a part of the 2021 Freight Train Blues Concert, which again begins virtually and free in May. Also, the project team is going to stick around for a little while. So if you have questions or you want to continue the conversation, we'll be here to hear you. And then the final thing I want to share is we're also going to be celebrating the topic of this evening's workshop, doing mind mapping. If you'll see on your screen there is a snapshot of what a mind map looks like. For those unfamiliar with mind mapping, it synthesizes input from participants by showcasing the ideas graphically. Think of it as an illustrative summary. So you may ask, well, why are we doing this? Well, because visuals are processed much more quickly. Some would say the brain processes visuals 60,000 times faster than text alone. And so many of us are visual learners. So hopefully we're going to be able to do this in real time and share a preview of it with you at the end of the meeting. If not, we'll certainly be sharing it as a follow-up. So I think that's all of the overview for this evening. But before I turn it over to Catherine, I want to just reemphasize for those joining us, please remember to go to the interpretation button on your phone or laptop or desktop and choose English or Spanish. Even if you're bilingual, please choose one of them. It will just make your Zoom experience so much better. Okay, Catherine, I could use your help. If we have any elected officials with us this evening, it would be so helpful if you could acknowledge them.
Thanks, Teresa. Glad to have everybody with us tonight. So if you are an elected official, do me a favor and raise your hand. Braxton, I see you. Let's see who else we've got. Lydia Lavelle, hello. Thank you for joining us tonight, Madam Mayor. Let's see, Jackie Gist there with the hand raised through the system as well. Randy Haven O'Donnell. Let's see, I know Damon said he was going to be here. I don't know if he's in the video just yet.
It's Barbara and Braxton.
Oh, that's right, I have Barbara and Braxton. Right, wrong board, Barbara.
That's okay, Sue.
Hey, Catherine, it's Damon. I'm here too. Nice to see everybody.
Hi, Damon. Thanks for being with us. And somebody says, well, Meek says he sees Sammy. I'm so pleased to see so many of your faces. So thank you to all of the elected officials who've joined us tonight. And thanks to all of you for joining us tonight. My name's Catherine Frey, and I'm one of the chairs of the Carrboro Connects task force. If this is your first exposure to us, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are trying to reach as many people as possible and include them in this comprehensive planning effort. And we're addressing climate action, race and equity, affordable housing, economic and fiscal sustainability. So this workshop, you have a chance not only to weigh in on the direction of the town for years or decades to come, but also to meet your neighbors and exchange ideas and share your voice to help make Carrboro a stronger and more inclusive community in the long term. So I just want to give you a short summary of what we've done so far. We started this process last summer when we kicked off with some interviews and assembling our task force. And since then, we've had 5 meetings of the task force for an initial review of the topics that we're going to discuss tonight. And we had our first community-wide workshop last November, which had 150 participants. I'm so glad to see just under 100 participants tonight. Earlier this month, we also had a successful Facebook Live event in partnership with El Centro to speak directly to the Latinx community. Tonight, I don't know about you, but even with this unsettled weather today and the very heavy rain that's coming down outside my window right now, it still feels like springtime and vaccines are rolling out, and it feels like there's some extra hope and some lightness in the air that we didn't have a few weeks ago. So I hope that you can all channel some hope and optimism into this process with me tonight, so we can start making plans for the future and think about strategies to strengthen our community. And could I have the next slide, please? Great. And now I've got to just move this Zoom thing over so I can see the next slide. So what's a comprehensive plan? A comprehensive plan, what we're doing tonight, working on tonight, is a thorough and thoughtful assessment of our existing and future conditions in the town. It's also an expression of our vision, our values, our expectations. It's guidance for desired development and for services that guides regulation and programs. So it's also a lodestar for our town council to use in making their decisions. And it's a realistic description of the fiscal and human resources that we need as a town in order to accomplish our vision and get where we're going. It's also a process for evaluation, for recording our progress and measuring how far we've come and making updates. Okay, so that's a lot. We're not going to do all of it in one night, but I'm so glad that you're here with me to keep working on it. And to start us off, I'm going to hand over to Patricia McGuire. Trisha's the planning director for the town of Carrboro, and she's going to lead a panel discussion focused on reaching back and looking forward. Thank you so much. Trish?
Thanks, Catherine. Thank you everyone for being here this evening. I think I'd love to have us just switch to the next slide, please. So through the town's commitment to advancing race and equity and participation in the North Carolina GARE cohort, we are working to acknowledge the theft of indigenous homelands related to the founding of our nation, the USA. Here in the Piedmont of North Carolina, land was historically inhabited by the Saponi and related Siouan-speaking peoples. We know that some of their names from historical records are the Occaneechi, the Shakori, the Eno, the Tutelo, and some of us have seen those names still today as part of the environment we live in. The Occaneechi Band of the Saponi Nation has achieved North Carolina recognition as a Native American tribe, and they've established a tribal homeland in Alamance County at Pleasant Grove. We encourage you all to think about these past residents, owners of this land, and to visit nativeland.ca to look for more information on Native peoples near Carrboro and in other places you've lived or visited around the world. Next slide, please. Our first presenters this evening are joining us asynchronously, and we are grateful to Dolores and Lori Clark and to St. Thomas More Church for creating this great record. In a moment, we'll share a video clip that is excerpted from a longer segment that you really all must see. The video records a recent interview between mother and daughter, Dolores and Lori, who are fourth and fifth generations of the Strayhorn family and are descendants of Tony and Nellie Atwater Strayhorn, who were both born enslaved in Orange County. Lori's also a member of the Comprehensive Plan Task Force. After their marriage in the 1870s, Mr. and Mrs. Strayhorn bought 30 acres of land in what would later become the town of Carrboro. This tract encompassed the area along Jones Ferry Road, from where the PTA Thrift Shop Community Works is located to over near where Owasso is located. And like much of Carrboro at the time, had to be cleared of trees before the Strayhorn family could begin to make their home there. The family farmed. Tony became a skilled mason and sought after for his skill, and community leader as well. And he built the home where Dolores and Lori still reside, as well as the home for his son, William, right next door. Dolores and Lori are generous and gracious in sharing their family's insights into the Black experience in Carrboro over 7 generations. And we've got a little sample to share with you this evening. Could you play the video, Benito?
Welcome to the Strayhorn property. We're in Carrboro, North Carolina, and we are actually sitting in the one-room log cabin that my great-great-grandparents built.
So,
And
what they did, how they made it, like I said, they cleared the forest, they built a log cabin, and they planted crops. He became a farmer, and they sold vegetables and milk and butter around in Carrboro to other people.
So that video really just whets our appetite. This is an image of the Strayhorn family, and Tony and Nellie are both in this picture, as well as some of their children and grandchildren and other relatives. We will be sending out links to the longer video and the shorter video after the meeting, so you can all experience it at your leisure. Next slide, please. Next, we have Richard Ellington, a resident and avocational historian who has authored 2 books on Carrboro history. And Richard's going to provide us an overview of the history in the Milltown era. Well, Richard can literally talk for hours on these subjects, and many know and have heard his presentations. Tonight, he'll just be giving us a glimpse of this story. And he's given us permission to ask him to wrap it up in 5 minutes because we're trying to keep everybody on our 2-hour time frame. But you can look for longer sessions with Richard at Carrboro Day, and there's also some footage, videos that are archived on the Recreation Parks and Cultural Resources Facebook page. So let's see. Oh, actually, we don't have a video for Richard. He's going to walk through some slides for us. Richard, are you ready?
I am now unmuted. This sign shows that our town space has been populated for quite some time. Mills were a vital part of the growing community. You see the date 1765. This was part of Orange County, which was founded in 1752. Next slide, please. This was Confederate General Hoke, who at the end of the war was founding around for something to do, and ended up hearing about an iron mine location or an iron deposit location in what is now Ironwood subdivision. And so he acquired the property and began to set up a mine there. Next. This is a site of the old iron mine. I say it's located in this Ironwood subdivision, which is just north of town, just off of Estes Drive. Next. This is actually what you see in that depression in the middle of the foreground there was the actual entrance to the mine that was there, and the mine itself played out in about 20 years. It was the deposit was a nice deposit, but it was limited in its scope. Next. This is University Station. This is where the railroad spur that runs into Carrboro came off of the main North Carolina Railroad, which is in Hillsboro, and that's a railroad that you and I own as citizens of North Carolina. The spur to the iron mine was built in the late 1870s, so they could haul, since there were no paved roads anywhere, they had to haul the iron ore out of the mine and by a railroad. So there was no other way to get it out. And but anyway, and the railroad was extended from the mine area, which, like I said, is just the other side of the bridge. If you know where the bridge on Estes Drive is located, it was extended from that point into town about 1890s. Next. This is why Carrboro is often called a mill town, although it was not a classic Southern mill town. Thomas Lloyd built this original structure, and this has actually been not the original, it was actually increased a couple of different times. But he built the structure in 1898, 1899. And it was built largely because there was a railroad that was available to him to haul his products out. He could haul raw materials in and finished product out. So it provided him an outlet, and was really the first emanation, or second emanation really, with the iron mine itself, but showing the importance of the railroad in the town of Carrboro. Next. This is the second mill that Thomas Lloyd built. It was off on Robertson Street, and the building is no longer there. There's now an office building that was built for Orange Chatham Comprehensive Health Services in the 70s that replaced it. When this building was torn down, the bricks were donated to a fund for the Orange County Rescue Squad, South Orange Rescue Squad, and the building that is located on Robertson Street now, where it's built from, with bricks from this mill. This mill in World War II also served as a munitions plant. They produced anti-aircraft bullets, basically, to be used by our soldiers during World War II. Next. This is a photo of women working on spinning mills, and it was taken inside of what we now call Carr Mill. And from the best of I've been able to find with some actual locations of where the equipment was, this was actually on the second floor of what is now Carr Mill Mall. This photo was taken in the 1920s. Next slide. This is a photograph of all of the mill employees in May 1957. There are a number of husband and wife combos here that represent just a very few families that actually depended on the mill, which is why I said Carrboro is not really a mill town. What you see here is about 120 people. And I would venture to say there's probably 80 or so households represented here. A lot of people worked either in town for other businesses or worked for lots of people worked for the universities and a number of the trades and whatever. Yeah, the mills were important, but they were not paramount. Next. This is a train called you sometimes hear referred to as the Carrboro Hooper. And you see that there's over top of the cab of the engine, there's a smokestack. That was located behind Carr Mill Mall in what is now the parking lot in front of CVS. These sheds that you see there were sheds that were used to store grains and fertilizers and whatever. What used to be called guana, it was bat droppings that was hauled in to be used for high quality fertilizer. This train ran back and forth from University Station to downtown Carrboro several times a day and hauled freight and passengers back and forth until 1935, when it was basically shut down. The Great Depression had a tragic effect on the mills and closed them down. Next. For many years, this is the railroad cross-tie market. And you see it's in the parking lot now of what is now Carr Mill Mall. Carrboro was known as the cross-tie capital of the world, although that's probably an exaggeration. It was at least a very important cross-tie provider in the Southeast anyway, because railroad cross-ties were necessary in order to lay new track and to repair old track. And it gave a lot of farmers in the area something to do in the wintertime. They could cut logs and haul them in and make money when they didn't have any crops to pick. This here again, it required the railroad. So the railroad was paramount in the operation of this business also. Next.
Richard, this is Teresa, one of the moderators. I just wanted to do a time check. We've reached our 5-minute mark. Is there a place we could bookmark your presentation?
Sure, if you want to. Should I just do this one last slide and call it a day?
Sounds great.
All right. What you see here is also another industry that relied on the railroad, and it was pulpwood industry, which here again, farmers made money off of this too in the wintertime. And this ran until the 1970s when Weyerhaeuser and other paper companies, started growing their own forests, and we didn't have a product for or a place for our product to go. So, yeah, Carrboro was, as I'm trying to show you, Carrboro was a blue collar working man town, regardless of your color.
Thanks, Richard. So next up is Francis Lloyd Shetley. In a moment, I'll share a brief recording with Francis, whose family ties go back to the 18th century. Francis co-founded the Town's Appearance Commission, chaired the Transportation Advisory Board, and served on the Board of Aldermen for about 12 years. Some of you will know the Francis Shetley Bikeway that connects Shelton Street to North Greensboro Street. It's currently right near the construction zone for the new roundabout at Estes Drive. It was dedicated in Francis's honor because of her work on transportation issues and projects. Benito, can you share and this is a great article, you can look on the web related to the town's centennial about Francis. Could you play the video or the audio for us?
Francis Lloyd Shetley, who has kindly agreed to share some thoughts at our Carrboro Connects community workshop this evening. Thank you so much, Francis, for sharing. Tell us what you have to say.
Well, thank you for inviting me to be a part of this planning session. I'm just so proud to be here and to talk to you. I've lived in Carrboro or near Carrboro all of my life, and I've been in and around Carrboro politics since 1960s, and I've seen so many changes in attitudes, policy, and development over the years. And I'll have to tell you, I'm very proud of the leadership and the citizens who have made this happen. And I thank all of you who will be working on this workshop. I look forward to a great 2021 comprehensive plan, and I hope at some point in time I can listen to your sessions and enjoy them. Thank you so much again.
Thanks to Francis. She's a wonderful person, as all of our speakers, our presenters are this evening. They have long ties to Carrboro's past, and they really respect what we can learn from those experiences and value how that knowledge can shape the steps we choose moving forward. Hope you'll join me in thanking them for their contributions this evening. Our next session, next slide, is a panel discussion. We've asked several of our task force members to speak to the community tonight, illustrating the variety of different perspectives that exist in town and opening our minds to the connections among and between us and how our experiences will resonate with theirs. So let's start with David Dixon, a graduate student at UNC. David? And we're going to turn off the slides and just have our gallery view, I think.
That's really a tough act to follow, so thanks for that, Trish. So I just wanted to share today a little bit about my perspective, why I came to Carrboro to live here and why I like living here and wanted to be part of this process. So as Trish mentioned, I'm a graduate student at UNC, and I came here in part because of the high regard of UNC, but also the lifestyle of being here in the Triangle. And once we decided, my wife and I decided to locate here, the Carrboro was really the most logical place to be within the Triangle. She works as a nurse at Duke Hospital, and so being here with two really well respected, both the UNC and Duke hospitals being so well respected, made this a great place for us. And in addition, when we were choosing a place to live, being in Carrboro meets a lot of the needs that we have. It's really nice to be in a place that's walkable and bikeable, somewhere that we can get outside and also somewhere that is open to many different lifestyles and very welcoming. And so I really appreciate the efforts that Carrboro is making to increase and expand that inclusivity. And I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thanks, David. Next, let's hear from Rassam Touloui, a newer member of the community. Rassam, what are your thoughts for this evening?
Hey, Trish, Rassam wasn't able to join us tonight.
Oh, he wasn't? Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I hadn't had a chance to scan everywhere, Ben. Sorry about that. We miss him. Let's turn to Jackie Thompson, a longer term town resident. Jackie?
Hi everyone. I'm Jackie Thompson, and as a resident of Carrboro, I have seen this progressive town grow over the last 32 years. Since moving here in 1988, I have witnessed new schools being built, Carrboro's popular farmers market, the new Martin Luther King Jr. Park, and a host of locally owned businesses. Carrboro also has a strong culture and sense of community. This is evident in our COVID-19 response, where I've seen mass distributions, I've seen the creation of the Emergency Housing Fund, and a number of residents contributing to charitable organizations. One of the major changes that I've noticed since living here is the amount of new residents in the area. While Carrboro's population has grown to include many different ages, genders, sexual orientation, and religions, Carrboro still has a lot of work to be done to ensure that people of different socioeconomic statuses feel welcome and included. I've had the opportunity to raise 2 children in Carrboro who have attended the Chapel Hill Carrboro City Schools. While this school system has a reputation for having a high graduation rate and testing performance, I am aware that there is a large achievement gap between white students, Black students, and Latinx students. This has been evident in my experience with volunteering at different schools at all grade levels, listening to my children and other Black families and Latinx students and teachers within the district. As a human services coordinator for the town of Chapel Hill, I've had the opportunity to work with many local nonprofits. While working with staff at the town of Carrboro and partnering with local nonprofits, we often hear from our partners about being included in town processes and decisions. Many of the nonprofits we work with represent segments of our community, including low-income families, disabled residents, and residents of color. Moving forward, Carrboro must ensure that we are encouraging and listening to our residents, especially those from marginalized communities. It is critical that we create spaces for them to feel heard and understand, because they live here too. And we should strive for a more inclusive Carrboro. We welcome all Carrboro residents to join the task force meetings and to help shape Carrboro's future.
Thank you, Jackie. That was great. I'd like to ask Connor Lopez to take the last leg of our panelist relay. Connor is a student at Chapel Hill High.
Hello, as everyone just heard, my name is Connor. I'm 18 years old. I've lived here pretty much all my life. I was born in Maryland, in Baltimore, Maryland, but I've lived here for 12 years. So this is pretty much, I'd call my hometown. I've always, if anybody's ever asked me, I've always said I'm from North Carolina and I'm from Carrboro or Chapel Hill. And I've always had a really deep interest in, I think it's both been history and in local politics and trying to figure out, and I want to say thank you to Richard Ellington for that. I really liked the presentation he just gave. I actually found a lot of the little tidbits really interesting. And from living in Carrboro, I live in Wexford, so kind of right off of Homestead Road. And always being here, I'd say it's definitely been a net positive always living here and meeting all the people in the community. And it's been brought up a lot of, the inclusivity in the culture and things around that nature. And I've been very lucky to be able to grow up here. And I would say that probably some of like one of the downsides, at least living where specifically in my neighborhood, and I think kids across Homestead, is kind of the lack of transportation a lot of the times to get into Carrboro, and it kind of leaves kids stuck in between this barrier between the two like sides of the city. But actually, something that Jackie Thompson actually brought up that I really wanted to touch on too was the disparity within Chapel Hill High School of at least who takes what classes and the education I find. So I've always tried to push myself in my education, but I couldn't stop from noticing that absolutely the vast majority of my classes, honors and AP, are very much majority white and Asian, I would say. I remember, I forget who I was talking to, of course, but I was talking to my friends too. They had the same experiences. It's always been a very offset racial imbalance in a lot of these higher classes that can really help you get experience for colleges or for higher education. And I think that's something that we really need to be talking about more of, because from a lot of my friends' perspectives, and maybe I'm just completely ignorant to why the disparity is there. It seems like there's just a failing of a system that kids aren't learning about either the classes, or they're not getting the support when they're younger and talking about what the classes. And that's, I would say, definitely what I'd want to hit on the most, especially after I go off to college, or I want to see being helped more and more. And I think it would just really be better for the entire community to have the youth supported within and pushing themselves in our education system, which is amazing in all respects compared to a lot of the rest of the country. We're really great, but we're failing, I think, a very important minority of the kids. And I don't know exactly why that happens. I would love to see either other people's perspectives on that, or look into it in some way.
Thanks. Thank you all. I'm not going to try to restate what we heard. I think their words really speak to us all. And I think we can take those thoughts and see how they resonate with each of us as we move forward. I'm going to turn this over, and actually our next exercise might have a way for you to blend some of these themes into what we're doing tonight. So thank you all so much. We really so much appreciate you, Jackie, Connor, and David for stepping up. I'm going to turn it over to Teresa. Thank you.
I think Scott wanted to kick us off with a review of the key elements of the plan.
Thank you, Teresa. My name is Scott Golson with TESCA, and thank you so much for having us help you with this effort. It's really a pleasure. So I'm going to give you a very brief overview, and then we're going to have an interactive exercise. Glad to hear both from Jackie and Connor, and really everyone, the importance of race and equity. And the town council, as well as the task force, are really focusing on that throughout every aspect of the plan. So rather than making it a separate chapter, if you will, it's really embedded. And we really want to hear from all of you tonight and throughout all the process about how to expand social justice through planning and projects. Next slide. So climate action, this has been an important element of the town for some time, the climate action plan. And that's talking about both revising municipal policies, updating infrastructure, but really providing a climate a platform for private action as well, in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions through driving or less driving and other activities. Which brings us to transportation, really focusing on equity, focused solutions and providing transportation options. There's a lot of biking and walking in the community, how to make that easier. We just heard about the difficulty of crossing certain roads. You have a free bus, but it doesn't go everywhere. So really thinking holistically about transportation, building on the bike plan that was just completed. Next slide. Water is essential. This is OWASA here, but looking both at water supply as well as stormwater, all aspects of the water cycle is part of the importance of the environment in the community. Next slide. And green infrastructure. So whether it's greenways, parkways, open spaces, or green stormwater infrastructure, which is a technical word for rain gardens and other activities to address stormwater through natural means and protecting natural areas. Economic sustainability is really crucial. You have an economic sustainability plan, but really thinking through how to make those activities more inclusive, how to support BIPOC businesses and entrepreneurs, place-based, Weaver Street Market, Farmers Market, but Carrboro Plaza and other elements of trying to rebuild the commercial economy throughout the community to have those interactions and opportunities for small local owned businesses. Affordable housing is key. When we did voting at the last community meeting, I think affordable housing was one of the most important priorities that came up through that meeting. This is just a beautiful housing development in Carrboro, Viburnum Way, the Community Home Trust, where this is mixed. Some of them are for sale. Some of them are at lower prices, and it's all mixed together. That's an example of innovative approaches to affordable housing. Recreation, parks, and cultural resources. And so you've got some of the most famous local festivals around in the region, and really celebrating that. We're able to hear a little bit at the beginning. We're going to hear a little bit at the end of the meeting. Recreation, what about access and social justice as it relates to what programming is available in the community? So we really want to hear your thoughts about, we've got some great activities already going. How do you make them even better? And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Teresa. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Scott. You'll need to grab a phone or a device other than the one you're using to participate in this Zoom meeting. During our time of meeting on Zoom, we have to be creative about how we get input and share ideas with one another. And this is one of those experiential activities we can do online. So grab your phone and go to www.menti.com, MENTI.com. And when you get there, you're going to see a screen that looks like what's up on your screen right now. There's going to be a space for you to enter a code number. And once you enter that code number, I'm going to ask you to hold until we all get there. The code number you're going to enter, and I'm doing it at the same time you are, 3865-0472, and hit submit, or yours may say vote. We're going to go through 3 questions rather quickly, and what's going to happen is you're going to enter your response individually, but on the screen, we're going to see everybody's responses come in all together. So it's a way of us sharing our ideas. So once you get there, hold tight, wait to type your answer until we give everybody a chance to get there. So now it's challenging for me to watch the screen and you, but I see heads down. Looks like people are looking. Looks like people are on devices. I see eyes down. Somebody give me a thumbs up once you're sure you're there. Oh, I see a couple of thumbs. All right. So our first question is, what song reminds you of Carrboro? And you'll start to see the answers come in. Don't worry, be happy. I love that one. Someone asked for the code again. I'm going to type it in the chat while I'm saying it. It's 65-0472. And I tell you, if somebody says you don't have a smartphone, you can give us your answers in the chat. How about that? No Place Like the Right Time, Bicycle by Queen, Carolina on My Mind, Blues, Freight Train, Tragic Carpet Ride, Oh What a Wonderful Variety, Fruits of Our Labor, Free Bird. Oh, they're coming in great. Mr. Blue Sky. Vivir Mi Vida by Mark Antony. Get up, stand up, Camelot, a change is gonna come. Somebody said they didn't even know there was It's Carrboro. There was a song called It's Carrboro. Wonderful. Let's go on to the second question.
Thanks. I now have the Carrboro rap stuck in my head again. It's been a good 5 years since I had that earworm and it's back.
Okay, think of it that you're going on a field trip in Carrboro. We're headed outdoors to enjoy nature. Where are you going to go in Carrboro for your field trip? Bowling Forest, trails at Winston Lake. You've got the hang of this now. Wonderful. Hank Anderson Park, the bikeway, another Hank Anderson Park, and you'll see some of what's coming through is larger. What happens is the app will, if it gets more than multiple people respond, it kind of gets larger. The response gets larger. The farmers market, Wilson Park. Wonderful, keep them coming. North Carolina Forest. Great, I see a Hank Anderson Park in the chat. Tom's Creek at Kings Park, wonderful. Yeah, we look forward to the day when we can do field trips together and we can go and do these activities as a group. Thank you so much. Let's go to our third question. What food dish reminds you of Carrboro? What food dish reminds you of Carrboro? Carborito, okay. King Lao lotus root. Mexican food trucks, the elbow burger with a sad face. Pizza, Neil's biscuits, tacos, tomato pie. Brunswick stew. Wonderful. Thank you all so much for being able to just in a fun way, kind of share your impressions and reflections on Carrboro. Thank you so much. We're going to transition to talk about the power of planning at this point. And so I'm going to pass the microphone to Anita Jones Mcnair.
Thank you again. Thank you everyone for participating, and great feedback there. We have two speakers lined up in this segment. Before we jump in on that, and the first topic is actually Anita Jones Mcnair, our Director of Recreation Parks and Cultural Resources, and our Race and Equity Officer. And Anita's going to just discuss some of the work that the town has underway with regard to race and equity, especially how it's being incorporated as a cross-cutting theme in this work. I think, as we could see in the information, that just in the little reaching back, looking forward session, we have a lot of information and a lot of work to do, just to put it simply. I did not mean to present any disparities in information that we put before everyone tonight. We did use a couple of different methods of sharing. I do commend everyone specifically to the full video that Dolores and Lori have created for us, because one of the things they do in that video is speak wonderfully about a juxtaposition between the experiences of two of our speakers, Dolores and Francis, who are similar in terms of their age and their experiences just going to school. And since school came up as a topic in Connor's comments and in Jackie's as well, I just wanted to share with you that one of the comments that Dolores makes is is how difficult it was for her growing up in Carrboro to have to walk a mile or more to the school, the Orange County Training School over in Chapel Hill on Church Street, which was an Orange County school. And she couldn't go right down the street to where Town Hall is. Her home is located less than 2 blocks from the Town Hall school, the graded school in Carrboro, but it was only for white children, some of whom rode the bus to school, and there was no bus provided for kids who were Black in our community until Dolores was actually a high school student after World War II. So we do have, there are many other aspects to this part of our history. And some of the work that we are doing on race and equity in the town is trying to look into these questions and issues, provide ourselves with the tools to be able to examine what we're doing and to dismantle structures that will cause disparities as we go forward. So we are very actively working on this. I don't want to take away Anita's discussion though and presentation, so I'm going to let her begin. She will tell you about what we're doing at the town right now. And she'll also walk through an example of just a sort of a planning example that has some intersections with this topic, but is also just about the power of planning. And then she'll turn it over to Eleazar Posada. But with that, I'm going to let Anita go forward, and we hope that any comments and thoughts that what you hear tonight evokes in you, that you will share it with us, that we will get to hear what you say in the breakout sessions and in the chat if that's necessary as well. We are open to hearing what your thoughts are in response. So thank you. Anita, you ready to go?
Yes, I am. Good evening, everyone. I have the unique opportunity to share several brief experiences as the town's Race and Equity Officer and the Recreation, Parks, and Cultural Resources Director. The power of race and equity work, the power of community engagement, and the power of planning is when ideas become action. We are currently at a time where the need for all of these framing elements are so impactful during this comprehensive planning process and for ongoing community work. We started the work on advancing race and equity in 2018, thanks to our town council. We joined GARE, which stands for Government Alliance for Race and Equity, and it is a network of governmental entities working to achieve racial equity and advancing opportunities for all citizens in our community. We've been on this journey of learning and examining our work through a racial equity lens, looking at the needs of the community and making changes as needed is actually nothing new to the town. For example, when you consider the Vision 2020 policy document adopted almost 21 years ago, if you think about it, there's no specific reference to race and equity. However, Policy 1.2 states Carrboro is an integrated community. We need to understand each other, accept each other, appreciate each other, interact with each other, work, live, and recreate together. And actually, that's a great beginning for race and equity work. Next slide, please. A core group of staff was formed and participated in a learning cohort for over a year and a half, having the opportunity to complete a training process through GARE and Race Forward. As you can see on the left side of the screen are jurisdictions that we participated in the cohort with. And on the right side of the screen, you also see members from North Carolina. Staff were trained, and also we were trained to train our staff members, along with learning about tools to help develop a racial equity action plan. And actually, we're currently working with the county as we speak to develop a countywide action plan. We also are going to have an opportunity to examine our policies, practices, and procedures by using an instrument, a tool that we're currently trying to make sure that it works very well in Orange County. To date, we've actually trained 78 town employees, and everyone should be trained by the summer of 2021. We're also going to train the task force members at some point in the spring so that they can incorporate this approach and understand that this work does make a difference in the comprehensive planning project. Next slide, please. Now I want to briefly talk about community engagement and the power of community engagement in planning. When I joined the town in 2003, it's hard to even say that, but 2003, both the town and Orange County had recently acquired properties to develop parks, with, of course, the locations inspired by adopted plans where community involvement was very critical. Orange County purchased Twin Creeks Park following the facilitated small area plan and purchased a large enough tract for a community park and for one or two more schools. Next slide, please. The town was also planning for a new community park in the central part of town. 10 acres of land was purchased for the park in 1999, which was originally called the Hillsborough Road Park, following the adoption of the 1994 Recreation and Parks Comprehensive Master Plan. The Carrboro Vision 2020 was also included, had also included a policy to implement that plan. Next slide, please. The first plan for this park was approved in 2004 and renamed Dr. Martin Luther King Park. Interim uses for this park was approved in 2007, awaiting funding for the development. During this time, we had an opportunity to take a look at the planning process, including murals and quotations that depicts his legacy. The construction began late 2019, and we dedicated and celebrated the park on his birthday, which was the holiday of January 20, 2020. This is the power of a success story in terms of community engagement and planning and how those ideas become actions. So I'd like to now pass it on to Eleazar Posada, a task force member and acting president and director of El Centro, to tell us about a recent community event that was held. Eleazar.
Buenas noches. Esta tarde voy a estar hablando en español, dado a que tenemos a Murtado que está interpretando tan fantásticamente. Como ya se mencionó, parte de lo que queríamos hacer con este evento es llegar a comunidades de color y realmente ejercer ese deseo de Carrboro de llegar a diferentes comunidades, de llegar a personas que son afectadas en diferentes maneras y escuchar de nuestra comunidad. Este evento se hizo a cabo, como ya vienen en las fotos, mediante un Facebook Live, donde tuvimos al alcalde y la vicealcalde con nosotros, escuchando a nuestra comunidad. Este evento llegó a frente de 9,790 personas. De esas 9,790 personas, 543 vieron el video, y de esas 543, 55 pusieron, fueron o vieron todo el video o estaban interactuando con lo que vimos, o sea, con un like, con un share, con un comentario. Y hemos visto esto también el video compartido después del evento, porque la comunidad está interesada en siguiendo ver lo que respondieron el alcalde y la vicealcalde, pero también el hecho de que es la primera vez que mucha de nuestra gente ha visto que esto pase. Es la primera vez que yo puedo decir que yo trabajo con una ciudad para hacer un evento de esta manera en el lenguaje que habla nuestra comunidad, ¿no? Y poniéndolos como ahorita están el pie en el otro, el zapato en el otro pie, ¿no? Usualmente nuestra comunidad son los que están escuchando de un lenguaje a otro y queríamos también darle esa experiencia al alcalde, a la vicealcalde, a todos los que están en el equipo de la ciudad, porque es importante reconocer y saber nuestra comunidad, las experiencias de nuestra comunidad cuando estamos haciendo este plan. Fácil, así le doy el reporte rápido. No puedo decir cuánta alegría tengo de que se haya hecho este evento. Y de nuevo, muchas gracias a la ciudad y a todo el equipo de la ciudad que hicieron este evento posible.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, welcome back, everybody. I just wanted to invite all of the breakout groups to share with us what they learned. So let's see. Where should we start? Shall we start with group one? Actually, you know what? Let's turn it around. Let's do group 6 or 5. Thanks, Ben.
Okay, give me a second to share my screen of what we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
All right, y so Ángela, ¿está lista?
It's gonna be Diego.
Oh, Diego, perdón.
Sí, estoy listo. ¿Puedo comenzar?
Sí.
Bueno, buenas noches a todos. El tema que hemos consensuado un poco es acerca sobre las viviendas asequibles. Se ha mencionado que es la importancia se ha visto algunos datos, información sobre datos económicos, sobre las incomes, de que tienen los diferentes niveles estratos económicos y cómo esto se hace un poco difícil para la accesibilidad a las viviendas. Para esto se pidió o se mencionó sobre que se puede iniciar un pago inicial bajo, que pueda existir recursos financieros para promover estas acciones. También otra acción que se tomó como casas que sean iniciativas que organismos no profit ayuden a la accesibilidad de estas viviendas accesibles. Por otra parte, la sostenibilidad económica se comunicó también sobre la parte de aportar, de atraer más a los pequeños negocios locales que proveen la educación, que proveen los servicios y las necesidades básicas que están alrededor de Carrboro. Y si quiere continuar con Sor Ángela, por favor, con recreación y parque. ¿O continúo yo?
No, ya terminó.
Sí, recreación y parques.
Oh, okay. And that ends our big ideas takeaways.
Thank you. Then next, can we hear from group 4?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have a slide, and so if I was supposed to be providing one, I apologize, but I'm happy to talk about what we came to in group 4. I think by and large, our group really affirmed the town goals about the primacy of affordable housing as like a central issue. I think the main thing that our group really emphasized is that we would be interested in seeing a really wide range of potential solutions tried and tested by the town. There was an appetite for various solutions from, accessory dwellings to expanded housing co-ops and community land trusts. And I think there's just a real opportunity and appetite to try a lot of different solutions to the affordable housing problem and not just kind of a standard blended market approach. No, thank you, Carol. And then I think on the economic sustainability front, that sort of a similar approach there. I think there was a real appetite for the town to be diverse in its approach there, but I think one of the ideas that was really important that emerged was we would really like the town to adopt some kind of reparations framework and a concrete way of talking about equity in response to historical realities and figuring out ways to develop programs that make that real for businesses and for stakeholders in this community moving forward. And I think finally, the third thing is, as we were talking and these things were, sort of overlapping with one another, transit is really central to like all of these, and as sort of a literal bridge and, symbolic bridge issue, we think that just considering transit access for, housing in particular is extremely important, making sure that housing is always transit connected. But, also for economic business corridors and making sure that both where workers live and important business districts are transit connected is really, really important.
Thanks for that, Danny. And thanks for the equity. I know this is something I think about a lot when I'm on the planning board, and knowing that, it really struck me earlier when we were looking at the presentation and we saw those photos of Carrboro from the 30s and 40s and 50s, right? Of photos of segregated Carrboro, and thinking about zoning then coming along in the 60s as a tool of segregation. And so how do we take those tools and turn them to Carrboro's values today? Really appreciate that, Danny. Group 3, Wamik.
Yeah, so we had a fantastic discussion. Thanks to everybody who participated. I really enjoyed it. On housing, we had a lot of talk about taking the lessons that we can learn from other groups whose work in housing has aligned closely with what the visions of this process are. And so in that vein, we talked a lot about expanding the use of the community home trust as part of a discussion about, not just providing affordable housing options at a range of incomes for people, but also giving them housing options that really give them a stake in their community, help give them tools potentially for home ownership going forward, just to kind of include them more in the town, make them feel like they have a home. We also talked in a similar vein about taking advantage of empowerment, another group whose work and values and mission aligns very closely with what it sounds like we want to do with affordable housing. On the process side, we also talked a little bit about making it easier to build affordable housing, reducing the barriers and the hoops that folks have to go through. We have, and I know that that's something that our town is thinking about all the time, but it would make sense probably as part of this process to take a look at land use ordinance and other parking requirements, things like that, that can affect development in Carrboro and just make it tougher to get the kinds of opportunities and solutions that we'd like to see. On economic development and sustainability, again, from an equity perspective, we talked about making sure that we maintain a focus on the quality of jobs that we're providing here, making sure that they provide a living wage, make it possible for people to actually live in Carrboro, not just work in Carrboro. Similarly, we talked about cooperative business ownership models, to something that could work in concert with cooperative affordable housing models, and again, giving folks a stake in their places of work, making them feel more connected to the business environment that we develop here in Carrboro. And of course, always an important topic, where do we build? How do we build? finding more space for commercial development. So the big themes there, in particular, we're building up dense development downtown. We also talked about expanding to other places near downtown that might make sense, perhaps closer to the 54 corridor, where there's a lot of space and it's not too far away from downtown, not too far from communities where a lot of folks live, particularly renters, and an attractive would be an attractive place for businesses to want to expand to a little bit closer to the highway. The equity topic, of course, also that theme predominated our transportation discussion as well. We talked about the importance of ensuring that transportation expansion and development is really linked to the needs of working folks in this town in particular. We talked about the possibility of expanding transport in concert with our affordable housing initiatives, and really making sure that expansion of bus lines happens in places that really reduce barriers to using these services, really putting them as close as possible to where people live, making sure that the schedules actually work for people's routines for getting around in town, getting to work. So certainly the theme that prevailed over all of those discussions, I think, was equity. I think we're thinking hard about that topic and trying to make sure that the plans that we put into action concretely address that, not just lip service, but are really built up from the needs of the folks who live in Carrboro and want to live in Carrboro.
Thanks, Wamik. Group 2.
Our group had such a variety of great ideas. So from climate action, one of the things that we learned is that the town has a goal to reduce greenhouse gases by 80% by 2030. But yet we know that over 90% of the greenhouse gases are non-municipal, so by the residents. So how are we going to do that? We thought, well, creating educational opportunities for residents to participate in a variety of activities is a great way to get people involved in reducing those emissions and having a positive effect on the climate. The other thing that we were really thinking about is connectivity. So that might be connectivity through neighborhoods, perhaps even on non-publicly accessible lands right now, and really thinking about those routes and how we optimize that. We kind of bled right into recreation, parks, and culture. And a lot of this is on maintaining the resources that we have, sharing the resources with the community, and education and outreach. Really think about where we need new parks, how those parks are utilized. Are we serving the entire community, or just, are we doing this as a matter of convenience? And on transportation, we thought you really need to start with the least ambulatory people and think about their transportation needs. Are the sidewalks adequate? Are bus stops warm and friendly? Can people get to transit and other options easily? For both recreational and work transportation, we need to think about accessibility and especially the bus system, but also the integration of sidewalks, bike lanes, and other modes to better utilize our facilities. And we're also advocating for more responsive use of roads, especially where connections are to non-town maintained roads that might be controlled by the DOT or other entities, and how we can convince them to make those more pedestrian and bike friendly. On the end, we were thinking of the costs of parking. So we know parking in a lot of areas in downtown and around town are free, but are those really free? And what are the true costs, both environmentally and transportation-wise, to our current parking policies? There was also one last thing on trying to reduce cut-through traffic in neighborhoods. So some of our neighborhoods are rather secluded and cul-de-sac and all of that, but we have a number of roads that are residential streets that are used as pretty much high volume thoroughfares for cut-through traffic.
Thanks, David. Okay, group 1.
That's me. Hi, everyone. I'm Maggie. I'm representing Group 1. We had a really wonderful, robust discussion as well, like all the other groups did, sounds like they did. And we talked about everything from compost to paratransit. But the kind of thread that ran through all of our conversations was about making sure that Carrboro is a safe, not only a safe, but a comfortable and accessible, that there a place for you to get, for people to get around. So when we talked about climate action, I think the main thing that came up was this sort of dual approach that Carrboro can take, not only reducing dependence on personal vehicles, but also emphasizing energy efficiency in homes and buildings. In this, we talked about kind of the intersection of climate action, housing, and transportation. We talked about greenways, how housing spaces are being broken up or smushed together in Carrboro. And that sort of led into our discussion about recreation and parks and cultural resources. We talked about programming for Carrboro and natural spaces. We all love the natural spaces in Carrboro. For this one, and when we talked about transportation, we had like a very specific big idea that I thought we would share. So that very specific big idea is to, from our new library, have historic walking tours around Carrboro, not only so that folks can get to know the town, but also maybe find new paths to get around and that sort of thing. When we talked about transportation, we talked about prioritizing biking and walking around town. We talked about having infrastructure that prioritizes biking and electric vehicles and that sort of thing. And then more specific issues around very busy roads and intersections as well. And we had a specific big idea for that one as well. Someone brought up potentially closing Weaver Street on Sunday mornings just to see what the town is like without vehicle traffic going downtown. And that was group one.
Thank you, everyone. That's awesome. And thank you for sticking with us. I know we're running a little over, so I'm going to hand on to our next segment, but we have some good content coming up if you're able to stay with us. Yep, we did this slide, so I think we can step on to the next. Awesome, thank you.
Happy holidays, everyone.
I miss you.
Happy holidays.
Especially during the holidays, it's such an important way to be reaching out and feeling a little bit more connected.
Carrboro, be vigilant. Carrboro, be safe.
Let's keep looking out for each other into the new year.
Uplift ourselves, each other, and our beloved community.
Hi, everyone. So I've been the quiet one in the background listening to you all. And as Teresa mentioned earlier, we have been illustratively note-taking, and I'm really excited to share just a few photos with you. Bear with me. I know that this has been an exciting evening, and I want to show you just some of your ideas on the screen here. All right, so hopefully you guys can see some of these colorful things. I did my best to draw a Carrboro.
Your desktop?
Just seeing it, yeah. What?
We're just seeing your desktop.
Oh, apologies. Hold
No,
on.
no worries, just wrong screen.
Are you seeing it now?
Yes.
Okay, great. As I was saying, I tried my best to draw a Carrboro up here, but there's going to be a lot more of this that's going to be coming up in the follow-up email to really highlight and celebrate all of the wonderful, wonderful feedback that was shared today. These are just a few of so many ideas, and so I'm going to run through these real quickly just to kind of perk your interest. I was just taking notes up until the last person speaking here. So thank you all for coming out and sharing your evening with us and all of these really powerful ideas. And we also will be sharing a time lapse, which is loading here, and I'm not going to show it to you because that'll give you reason to open the email and read all the notes and see what's to come. So thank you guys again for making my hands very colorful tonight.
Thanks, Erin. All right, Trish, I believe you're up next.
Sure, we do have a slide just to share. We wanted to just, as part of our call to action for this meeting, recognize that a couple of our task force members were actually recipients of this year's Paulie Murray Awards. This is the 31st year that Orange County's Human Relations Commission has made these awards, and there are 3 awards given, and 2 of them were given to Carrboro folks. So Paulie Murray, for those of you who may not know, was a remarkable person. Really, I should always say the Reverend Dr. Paulie Murray, because her life was very full and very varied, and an amazing witness and activist for all of us to look to for inspiration and in our lives. Quentin Harper was the adult recipient of the Paulie Murray Award this year, as our task force members know. Quentin is a member of the Affordable Housing Commission. He's a member of the Human Services Advisory Board. He is a staff person at the IFC's advocacy program, and he is a remarkable individual and community organizer and so many things. So we are so thrilled for Quentin's recognition this year. And if I would commend to you, as I have with a couple of other things tonight, we'll send you the link, but the video of Quentin receiving the award and his comments are truly inspirational. And second, the business recipient of the award this year is Present Day on Main, the renamed Johnny's Gone Fishing. And so Soteria Shepperson, one of our task force members, and Sophie Suberman were the recipients for their business program, which as Quentin's life and work does uphold the values that Paulie Murray pursued in her life to seek equality and justice and human rights for everyone. So with those thoughts in mind, we wanted to send you all on your way with the result of the end of our program tonight. As we said, we'll be staying afterwards. Several of us will be staying. We've got a few more videos to share that are going to be featured artists in the upcoming Freight Train Blues. So thanks so much for being here.
And finally, as we prepare to transition to the end of the meeting, just want to reinforce how important it is that you continue to stay involved in this effort. This was not just a one-time opportunity. If we could go to the next slide and the next one. CarrboroConnects.org is a great way for you to stay involved and see what's going on. You can see there's already been lots of activity already. We've had some ideas shared via the CarrboroConnects.org site, but we'd love to have more of that. Next slide, please. Here's some ideas and photos that have been shared using the idea tool on the website, and we invite you to utilize this. Something that was said tonight, you may reflect on later, or it could be a 3 a.m. revelation you have. You can certainly go to the website then and share that with us. Next slide, please. So throughout this process, we're building and strengthening community partnerships. If you've got an idea, let us know. You see the website there, as well as Ben's email address and phone number. So last thing we wanted to do before we transition to our music and conversation, share in the chat if you would. One more time, we started with the chat. We're going to end with the chat. How are you feeling now after joining us this evening for Carrboro Connects? Give us one word. How are you feeling now after joining us this evening for Carrboro Connects? Refreshed. Oh, that's a wonderful word. Listo. Oh, tired. Yes, I can understand that. Engaged and excited. Encouraged. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Barb, my sentiments exactly. We are most thankful for your participation. We're grateful for your wonderful insights and for staying even a little longer.